Today I was faced with a dilemma. Ever since I started this podcast, I had made it my goal to release one podcast episode every week for 52 weeks, no matter what. It was a goal to myself, and no matter whether I had one listen or a million listens, I said that is what I want to be able to do. And anyways, it's Friday now, and for those that have been listening the whole way through, I normally release my podcast episode every Tuesday. Well, I wasn't able to. And there was a number of reasons why. Like, I just moved house. My podiatry business has had a rough couple of weeks. I recently moved clinics as well. I started a new course, and I actually got a new editing team just to help me edit some of these podcasts. And it got to Tuesday, and we weren't able to edit it because the file size was too big. And then we got to Thursday. Now it's Friday. And I got a text message, and the text message said, "Hey, Steve, look, why don't we take this week off? Let's download all the files that you need to download for the next month. Let's spend the weekend getting them right, getting them perfect, getting them good. You don't have a million listeners just yet. Just relax. And we'll get, the next 29, 30 episodes done seamlessly, and you'll just miss a week." And I'm at work at this stage. I'm treating patients. I have a lunch break, and I'm thinking, nah, there's just something that doesn't sit well with me about that. And I was like, far out, fuck, I've got to that means I've got to record a podcast now. Is it really worth it? Your mind starts really sort of going pros and cons. You start, is it worth it? Isn't it worth it? Who's watching? No one's watching. It's only me. And then I said, nah, fuck it. I've got to do one, and I'll make it a good one, I said. And I said, I'm going to make one that's a good one, and it's just me, and I'm going to find a topic, and I'm going to stand in front of the camera like I am right now. I'm going to fucking deliver a piece of content or information that is relevant to exactly what I've been speaking about for the last 20 to 30 episodes. And so I'm listening to, all these people, all these thought leaders in the car on the way back. And I'm like, what's my topic? What am I going to speak about? And it just hit me. It's accountability. I've got to speak about accountability. And not like the accountability that you hear your big motivational speakers talk about, the organizational accountability, being part of a team, being part of that sporting club, the 1%ers rocking up and being like, yep, we all have the same mission, vision, values. We're going to be accountable to that. It's like, nah, fuck that. I want to talk about individual accountability to self. And there was a guy that I listened to called Simon Sinek. And if you don't know who that is, please go find his work and stop living under a rock, because he is the leader of leaders. He is definitely someone that I look at and I go, okay, I'll just about listen to most of what he says and know that it's going to be bang on. And he read a book by a guy called James Carsey, which was called The Finite versus Infinite Game. And that demonstrated personal accountability beautifully. It made it digestible, easy to understand, and hopefully gives you something that if you are trying to get, whether it's the body of your dreams, the girl of your dreams, you want to get that job promotion, whatever the fuck it is, you want to find love. This book and the way that he described it resonated so much with me that I think it will help anyone that wants those things get those things in a manner and in a mindset which is, one, achievable, and two, it's like not soul destroying. And I think that was something that's very important as well, because we are in such a society that we are comparing to the person to the left and the right of us all the time, that we are running what's called the finite game. We are running the game every single day where we get up and we try to lift heavier than the bloke next to us in the gym, or we try to pull the hotter girl that compared to the other guy that's out at the nightclub, or we're at work and we're trying to make a bigger sale than the other person that's also trying to make a sale for the company. And we are always playing what's called the finite game, where you have defined players, defined set of rules, and a defined set of objectives. Now, what they were talking about, and I found really interesting, was what was called the infinite game. Now, the infinite game is about understanding that there are always changing players. There's not always the same set of players. There's not always, you know, just who you have when you started. And so you've got different players, you have no set objectives, and the rules are able to be bent. Now, when this is the game, things change. And you realize that instead of versing the person to the left or right of you, you might be versing a new competitor, you might be making a new friend, you might be versing a new friend, whatever it is, but things are always changing. And so, how do you live a life when things are always changing? Well, we do it every single day. And to illustrate that, one of the things that I found quite interesting was that when it got to the mindset of, like, let's say going to the gym, and you're going and you're standing up and you're training with your mates and you have a shit day at the gym. For some reason, you're weak. You can't push the same weight. Can't figure out why. You can't figure out why you can't push the same weight. In that point of time, if you have a finite mindset, you lost. But if you have an infinite mindset, you know that you can be better tomorrow. I was looking at that and I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense, because the environment is always changing around us. And the only thing that holds us to be able to show up time and time again is accountability. I'll give you an example. Personal example, in 2017, I started this company called Gaps, and Gaps was my third company at that point in time. I had one called Sessions, which was a nightclub company, and I had Melbourne Sports Podiatry, which is my podiatry business. And then I had this company called Gaps because I wanted to be this like big time CEO, have all the money, travel the world, create something substantial, like all this shit. Because you listen to videos all the time about making businesses and making money, and all of that was important to me as a kid. And Gaps had one clear objective. Its objective was to help prevent people from falling through the gaps of the healthcare system, especially in the specialist weight care system, because there were people waiting to see specialists all the time, and last minute cancellations would come up and people would miss out on those opportunities because there was a wait list of 30, 40, 50. And so what I did was, in 2017, I created an automated system to be able to get people directly to fill in to that software that the practitioner was using through an open API integration. And I thought, fuck yeah, this is sick. I went through the journey of finding a tech guy, finding a business partner, putting my money in time and time and time again. And then in 2020, at the start of 2020, I got my first ever proper client. This is after development, iteration, and all that. And then COVID happened. And everything changed. And that business went from getting its first customer to losing everything. My competitors, who were slow, like closed API, like nothing was integrated sort of people or organizations, they had to automatically put all their resources into integrating things. So they were going to be bigger, faster than I could ever be as a small business. And my nightclub business shut. And so all of a sudden, overnight, everything that I had worked for in two of those three businesses went down the drain. And that was a tough place to be. It was really fucking hard. And, in your mind, all these voices start to come. It's the voice of, well, there you go, you're not that creative after all. Or, you move too slow, man. That's what happens when you move too slow. Or you're never going to be able to make enough money, Steve. Like, that's just not possible. Obviously, there's other helpful thoughts. I wasn't just all doom and gloom. There was like, fuck these guys, I'm going to make money, or I'm going to create a business that's, successful, or I have the creative genes. And, you're fighting with those thoughts, and you're trying positive thoughts to take over the negative ones. But I still had one business left, which was the podiatry one. And during COVID, I moved back home and I read this book called The 5 a.m. Club. And that was written by a guy called Robin Sharma. I'm 99% sure. And it inspired me to get up every single morning. And what I did that every single morning, I've still got the videos on my podiatry Instagram but I created a podiatry Instagram video every single morning, or just about every single morning that I got up, to build up that social media following page so that I can create some wealth and create some money. Now, in the back of my mind, I was like, who the hell during COVID wants to follow a podiatrist that's doing stretching exercises in the morning? But I did it. And over 6 months, something interesting happened. My podiatry Instagram page went from a few hundred followers to a few thousand followers. My business went from 1,500 rev to 5K rev. And although I wasn't doing, and that's a week, and I guess, I'm not a 7-figure business entrepreneur, but for me, that was pretty fucking good, right? And I'm thinking, initially what I thought was not going to work, but I just wanted to stick at it, eventually ended up paying some dividends. And I went from not making any money to making a little bit. And it just shows that if you have an infinite mindset, sometimes you're behind and sometimes you're in front. The thing is, the game is always being played. Now, if the game is always being played and you are always accountable, well, most of the time you will be ahead. But on some occasions like this week, I was behind. And there are going to be some occasions where you're going to find yourself behind, whether it's in relationships, money, whether it's in physicality, whether it's in, being able to catch up with your friends. And then you realize that it's all good, but the goal is to make sure you stick at it. You stay accountable to yourself. And, it's not about, okay, you miss a week and, no, you're no longer accountable anymore and it's all turned to shit. No. It just means that you're a little bit more behind. But if you make accountability a habit, you're going to be in the lead a lot more often. So I hope this little podcast, this little short snippet of information can help you take your next week a little bit more lightly. But at the same time, building strong habits to reinforce that it's always nicer to be in the lead than it is to be behind. And if you can do that, then all the elements that you want to change in your life or get better in your life should come better for you. Now, squeezing the plums is something that I've been doing for a bit, guys, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. I actually don't know how long it's gone for, but I'll be doing a lot more of these shorter episodes moving forward. 1, because it's easier to produce. 2, because I want to be able to make sure that I can speak to camera and really give my thoughts and opinions on what's happening out there in the landscape of men. And it allows me then to produce my podcast with guests once a month and make sure that we're not rushing that process, which has evidently got me into this position right now. But if you don't mind to follow, like, and subscribe to the podcast, if you've listened all the way through, maybe share it with a friend. That'd be wonderful. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great weekend.